I was thinking. You know, I think fashion gets a bit of a bad rap. It's something that if you said you were studying in college, people would eye you suspiciously for. Like it's a phony subject, one above leisure and tourism and one below Dungeons and Dragons quest design. But I don't want to get into whether it's an art or if a brainy mind is needed to be a fashion designer, because sticking teabags up your nose after working out the exact angle and newtons of cram power needed for maximum efficiency could be both of those things, if your nostril stuffing was saying something about the human condition or generating enough electricity to power a small town. The word fashion covers a lot of ground, like that refugee tent city the UN made after the world's most unfashionable people donated all their old moo-moos. And the immediate image it conjures up for me is of emaciated horsewomen with hats made out of pipe cleaners walking along confidently only to realise they've been going the wrong way and to own that mistake and turn around. Whereas when I'm walking around in various states of bedragglement, I'll usually at least cross the street before turning back around, or at least look at my phone and say loudly to myself, oh no, as if I'm a hostage negotiator going to the park on my day off, but a text message from the airport means I have to go and stand on some tarmac and tell some people who are never going to get off that plane alive that we're going to respond to all their demands, occasionally whispering over my shoulder about getting a clean shot. That's high fashion. The tall people on the catwalk, not my hostage negotiations, which by the way usually centre around the argument that we don't know any of the hostages anyway, so what do we care? People like to laugh at high fashion and talk about how ridiculous it is, but that's like going to see Formula 1 and complaining about how fast all the cars are. The dresses made out of bathroom tiles and Indira Gandhi's fingernails aren't meant to be practical. They're meant to generate interest for the designer, who presumably can either dance off like a magic carpet on PCP to have tea with the Pixies, start selling duffel coats and black pumps to the general public for $300 each, or in Vivienne Westwood's case, do both. High fashion is meant to be crazy, but it's the high street fashion that's bullshit. I don't mind the shiny pointy idiot shoes with the drainpipe jeans or the Sherlock Holmes capes or whatever they're selling. It's the idea that these things can offer some sort of identity. Not that I'm saying H&M or Ray-Ban think we're all worthless slugs desperate for validation or meaning or anything. Since well before one Frenchman in a powdered wig pointed at his own short trousers and said to anyone who'd listen, look at this shit. Look at this shit. This shit could go all the way to the bottom. Fashion has telegraphed status not just from the elites to the riffraff, but between every social order. With clothing sold under the pretense that it will either align consumers to a certain social tribe or elevate them above their peers, but it just doesn't work like that these days. You can tell when someone's trying to look like something they're not, or at least I can, but then I do spend my free time staring into people's eyes from across crowded restaurants. The Fonz would have looked cool in a golf sweater, and yes, he was cooler in a leather jacket, but put Alain de Botton in a leather jacket and he's not going to look more cool, he's going to look like he's having a breakdown. Carol Vorderman is a very well-known woman on British daytime TV, I'm English don't you know, who over about a decade and a half went from what some would say was the fashion sense of a brown paper bag to becoming a glamorous quasi-fashionista, which of course is fine, as is transformation. Kafka taught us that. But she started out on a beige and grey game show where contestants had to make words out of 9 letters or add some numbers together to make a bigger number. The sort of thing that if your family started playing at Christmas would make walking into the sea more appealing with each passing millisecond. Fine, she dressed in weirdly coloured rubbish, but to me she just looked normal, like someone's nice-looking, somewhat eccentrically dressed crypto-fascist mum. I don't have a problem with her looking glamorous, or how would you put it? Well, not glamorous. But in my view, the transformation was a bullshit necessity of shifting her identity as she went from a TV show watched exclusively by congealing old people, students who saw it in between bong hits, and unemployed people who couldn't find the remote control, to sozzled housewives, bong-hitting students, and the chronically jobless. I can hear some people now, but she's a national treasure, to which I would say no one who sells loan consolidation on TV is a national treasure. Simon Weston, the man who had his face burnt off in the Falklands War and spent the rest of his life raising money for charity, that guy's a national treasure, pal. I'm not attacking Carol Vorderman, I just don't think her transformation is authentic, but is indicative of what high street fashion is all about, looking like something and selling the idea of being something that you're really not. She got away with it by doing it over years, which I suspect was a cynical plan initiated by her agent and the lizard people at ITV, because obviously people expect you to present a show called Loose Women in a fitted dress most women would say for a wedding they were going to ruin, and looking good can fill a lot of space in the Daily Mail, and if it's genuine, more power to her. But my hypothesis is that it's as credible as Conrad Black and Jeffrey Archer setting up an accountancy firm with the ghost of Robert Maxwell. By the way, if you like Carol Vorderman and you think I'm being a dickhead, good for you, have a loan. I'd like to say that one day there might be a world where people can just wear what they want without having to use clothing to communicate identity, but I think that world might only be achieved after the bronies take control, and I think there's a mug of drain cleaner with my name on it if that ever happens, because I imagine they'd force known subversives to off themselves. For now, we'll have to accept the apparent changes in identity of the nerdy kid at school who one day was wearing trousers that were too short, white socks, and a very tight backpack, and the next day came wearing a black hoodie and enough mascara for the Eye of Sauron, or someone who suddenly starts wearing a smoking jacket to emulate me. Yes, I am talking to you, Hugh Hefner, you great big copycat. I really think people should wear whatever they want, that lawyers should ditch the suits and the 9-to-5ers should go on the subway wearing hula skirts or backless leather pants or Liberace-sized fur coats, but I am now going to sit in a dark room for a while wearing black coveralls and a tie, so what do I know? Just a thought. You know, I think the future of fashion is probably just more of the same but with less crap haircuts, and I really do think